From every strand on the line of your reel, to the rods, to the anglers, to the lures on the end of your hook, let's talk about those big bass here on Co-Angler's Corner with your hosts, Rob Welch and John Stoudinger.
Good evening, everybody. This is John. I'm flying solo tonight. Rob's a little under the weather, and he may pop on. I'm not sure if he will or not, but we're just going to roll with it the way we got it. Tonight's guest is someone I met back around 99, 2000. I know a lot of you people who are watching weren't even born back then, but we're joined by Lee Bailey Jr. He's a seasoned angler, a fishing educator, and an industry veteran with decades of experience on and off the water. He competed at high levels, made the Bassmaster Classic 3 times, 40 top 40 finishes, all in. And then he actually won a Bassmaster event on Table Rock Lake. I got my microphone in the way. One of the things he likes to do is mentor the next generation in angling. He brings a wealth of knowledge, passion, and perspective to the world of bass fishing. Since he retired in 2007, Lee is pretty much focusing now on lure design. So let's welcome Lee to the stage and get him and get a good conversation going.
Hi, John.
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm looking forward to a good time.
Oh yeah, let's have a good time.
Yeah.
So for the people out there who don't know you very well, do you mind giving us a little background about you and your fishing, and we'll just carry on from there?
Sure. Like everybody, I mean, I started at a club level and worked my way up from there, and went into the pro ranks in 96, I think it was, that I actually started pro, and did that for like 15 years, and now I'm retired from it. Like you said, I do a lot of things still. I mean, I'm a lure designer and do that, and I do a lot of writing. I post on social media all the time, articles
Okay.
on bass fishing and different techniques and tactics and stuff like that. And I've been fortunate. I mean, I wrote 3 books, and we've done great with those. And just I've been blessed.
Yeah. And I had the pleasure of meeting you way back then at a small tackle shop that I worked at.
Yeah,
And I remember you were talking about the Cavitron buzzbait that you designed.
that's the first
And
buzzbait I designed. Yeah,
yeah, and I've caught many a fish on them. I think I might actually have one laying around
I
somewhere in
wouldn't
the
doubt it. I wouldn't doubt
know.
it. I mean, there's it's a wonderful bait. I mean,
Yes.
I designed it kind of out of necessity. I mean, I loved buzz baits, and I've always got big fish bites with buzz baits, but I needed something that I'd have a higher hooking percentage than a standard buzz bait, and that's what brought me to design Cavitron. And now I've got my little baby buzz bait, we call it.
Yep.
It's a compact bait. It's real small compared to its weight size, and we've been doing good with it. It's taken off, and it's the next generation.
Yep. Baits. I think baits cycle around. They
Yeah,
go small, then they go bigger, then they go smaller and bigger.
they do. They go back
Just
and
like high
forth.
school. Yeah, just like high school. Bell bottom, straight leg. Bell bottom, straight leg.
That's right.
Yeah, but no, it's definitely a great bait. And so you have your win on Table Rock. Do you mind
Yes.
talking about that a little bit? Your
Well, I mean, there's a really neat story to all of this. For Table Rock, I was headed down for to get. I had a friend in Springfield, Missouri, so I was headed down with my rig. At that time, I had a box trailer and all that, and I hit a wind, or I should say, a wind shear hit the side of my trailer in Virginia, and ended up rolling the whole rig over on the side of the road. I fortunate I didn't get hurt or nothing, but the rig was toast.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just toast. And I called my buddy up and told him I'm not going to make the tournament. I said, I just wrecked everything. And he said, get your butt down here. He said, I'll have a boat for you. We'll have everything ready for you. And he did. He got a boat from his dealer, and it was a little 18-footer, but it was a boat. And I went to practice. I lost a day of practice and went to practice the second day. And when I went out to get in the boat, all the batteries were dead. So to make
Oh,
a long story short, I had about half a day, maybe a little more than half a day of practice. And it was just great. I found the fish doing what I like. They were spawning. There was a lot of pre-spawn fish, and that's how I won it. I mean, I threw a back then. I don't know if you remember the Jersey rig.
yep.
It was the
I
first real wacky rig Cinco type bait. And I threw that all 3 days and won the tournament.
Yeah, I've gotten my beat by that rig a lot up here.
Yeah, yeah.
But no, it's if people don't know about that, don't even look it up. You can't find anything about it. It doesn't
You
catch fish.
can't hardly.
But
No.
no, I mean, I believe that wasn't that your Foxwoods trailer and boat?
Yes. Yeah, that was my first year on tour with
Yeah,
the full rig, and
yeah,
and you know things happen, and
yeah.
I just can't believe, I mean, with all the things that went wrong, I was still able to go there and concentrate enough to win the tournament.
Yeah, that was going to lead up to my next question was about the mental aspect of it. How did you prepare, knowing that? I mean, of course you were shaken up as far as the trailer and the boat and all that, but
Yeah,
getting ready for one of the biggest tournaments of your life at the time.
yeah.
How did you get your mind right? I mean, I know I'd have been like
Well,
all up in arms.
I was fortunate. I mean, I'll tell you another little part about that story. When I rolled the rig over, I couldn't open the door because the van was on its side, and a bunch of people came, jumped up on the van, pulled me out of that van like a rag doll. And I went and sat on the bank. And when the emergency people all got there, they had me come and they took all my vitals and all that stuff. And then I went back out and sat on the embankment, and then they came back out and said, we got to take all your vitals again. And I said, why? What's wrong? He said, nothing. That's what we're concerned about. Your blood pressure should be up. Everything should be going, and it wasn't. And that's how I stayed. I was very calm throughout it all, and knew the fish were doing what I like to do, and I was able to just focus on that pretty easily for me, and there was no pressure. After all that, there was no pressure, and when I let it the first day, of course, I was very excited about that. And the only time any pressure came in was after I let it for the second day. Then the third day, a little bit of pressure started building up.
Yep. But hey, with all the issues you had going into the tournament, what better way to end
Oh, I agree. It
it?
was it was great, and I went from there to an FLW was back then too, and I
Yep.
went from there right over to I think it was Louisiana, but I'm not positive. No, it wasn't. It was up at Kerr Lake, and
Okay.
I left Table Rock, went to Kerr Lake. My sponsor at the time was Triton, and they had a boat waiting for me at the dock because I still didn't have my rig back. And so I drove down there, and there's a new Triton sitting right right at the dock waiting for me. And so I mean, the sponsors really made it a lot easier to stay focused, and I ended up third in that tournament at Kerr.
Just you just need to have an accident every couple of weeks, and you'd have been good to go.
Just about.
But yeah, you and I were talking before the show about because you're from the Northeast,
Yeah.
about how things have changed in fishing, and one of the things that we both talked about was the GPS,
Yeah.
and I commend you for how you maneuvered, or how anybody maneuvered the Thousand Islands on a paper map.
It took a
Um,
lot of studying, I'll tell you.
because the wind. Hey, and you didn't have spot lock and
None
power
of that.
poles.
None of that. That's
But no,
right.
just how everybody maneuvered, and you know, you had to be smart. You
You had
know,
to pay attention.
yes,
When you were out with the boat and driving around, you really had to pay attention to landmarks and, anything that you could count on that wasn't going to change, to help navigate around, and even just simple as getting back to the ramp. Them places are so big, you make a long run and you got to know where you're going coming back.
yeah, it's the GPS has made everything so much easier.
It did.
You know, but I think it dumbed us down a little bit. We don't pay attention to the little nuances that we used to.
No, exactly. I mean, we were talking earlier, I got so reliant on that GPS that I stopped paying attention. I mean, I don't look at landmarks and stuff hardly at all anymore. I just focus on the GPS and the track.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, and it's nothing to see, for a co-angler like myself to look over at the boater, and the boater's like this, not a care in the world on what's around him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I believe he's counting on me to tell him if we're going to hit another boat or something like that. But he's staring
That's
at the
right.
track.
That's right. When GPSs first came out, I think it gave a lot of guys a little bit like overconfidence in it, where they'd run even sometimes in fog and conditions that not conducive to really running, but
Right,
because they had a GPS, they could maneuver. And like you said, not really paying attention to what could happen.
right.
Um, I think we've been fortunate though in this industry. I mean, there's lots of years have gone by with lots of boats and tournaments, and not many incidents have occurred.
I'll have to agree with you. I tell people airplanes the safest mode of transportation. You know,
Yep.
and there's people like, no, a motor vehicle. I'm like, I don't know about that, but cars are in
There's
accidents all
more
the time.
there's more accidents on the road than there is in the air.
Yes, it's just they're a little more alarming when they're in the air.
Well, yeah, because it's a bigger group of people involved in
It's
it than, a single car crash or something like that.
Yeah. Um, One of the things that I've always wanted to ask somebody on the pro tour level who's fished there, how do you handle everything that goes on with a multi-day tournament? I mean, I fished 1 and 2 day tournaments, but not a 3 and 4 day, especially at the level where you were at.
Right. Well, I mean, you go practice. You got 3 days of practice. Actually, it turns into like 2.5 days because you got to
Right.
get ready for the meeting and meet and greet with the fans and all that, and which is, a great thing. And I used to love meet and greet. It was a great time. But you get out there and you cover water in practice. You really try to bounce around a lot until
Okay.
you can establish something going on. And then tournament starts. that's when you buckle down. You pick 2 or 3 areas that you think are going to be good, and you fish them and fish them hard. Um, and that's when you really got to focus and concentrate. Because sometimes, I mean, I fished tournaments that, man, I fished one down here on the Kissimmee chain at Toho, and I fished a lily pad bed that, no lie, was 3, 4 times the size of my boat. And I went around it for 4 days and ended up third in that tournament. Roland Martin won that one. And
Yeah,
I never left. I practiced. My practice wasn't real good. You know, I could catch them, catch one over here, one over there, one over there. But I went into that lily pad bed and I had 2 good bites. I didn't never set the hook on them, but I had 2 good bites, and I figured that's the most bites I got together all through practice. And I went there and I caught a big limit the first day, and then I said, "That's it. I'm not leaving." Them fish are moving in and out. It was that time of year, and I just did that for 3 days. And
hey,
that's how you practice. I mean, that's how you fish a tournament. A lot of times you're going to be on 1 or 2 areas your whole competition.
okay, makes sense to me. If they're there, why not leave it?
That's right.
You
That's
know,
right.
I've talked to many people who've left fish to find fish, and it's always come to bite them
That's
in the rear.
that's not always a good thing.
No,
That's not
um,
always a good thing. Unless your fish are small and they're not going to be big enough to win, because that's all we think about. We don't think about catching enough fish to finish 50th in the tournament and get paid. You know, we focus on one thing, and that's winning. And it makes you fish differently than when you're fishing, like I used to fish local and regional tournaments.
right.
A lot of times you went out there just to cash a check. Where at the elite level, you don't. It's all about winning.
Unless you're outside that check line on the last day on day 3, you're like, okay, I gotta salvage something.
I gotta
Okay,
salvage it. Right.
I'm 40 pounds out of first. I don't think I'm going to catch that. So let me just try to
Right.
cash a check.
There you go. That's when you do that. After the second day or the first day, if you're too far out of everything the first day, then it's salvage time.
Yeah,
But I know when I started and really started focusing on winning, my my finishes were a lot higher than they were at the beginning when I was excited just to cash a check. Um,
right.
you know, but as I grew into the sport, then it became to win. And my bags got bigger. I started finishing higher. It's a whole different mentality.
Yeah. Um, I can't remember who it was that said something to the effect of, "You'll never know how good you be if you play it safe."
That's right.
You know,
That's
don't
absolutely
ever
right.
don't ever go into a tournament, thinking that you're there just to cash a check or get 10 points.
Oh, that's it.
Because you never know when that time for the win is there.
No, and that's why you see guys run 70, 80 miles away from the boat ramp, because they want to find something that nobody's on, that they can capitalize on. Um, you take those risks. When you run that far, anything can happen.
Yes,
You know, you don't know. When you stay close and you play it safe, if your motor breaks, you can still get to the ramp on time.
that's true.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree with you. If you're going to be in it, you might as well try to win.
yeah.
I mean, the elites have it lucky. They're lucky now they don't have an entry fee.
Oh, I know. Boy, I wish it was like that when I was fishing.
You know the things we've noticed, the prices have gone down, but the entry fees have tripled.
Yeah. Yeah. When they started the elites, it was almost undoable, because of the entry fees were high. Um, in the first year, it was 10 tournaments,
Yes.
not down. I think they're at 7 or 8 now, or something like that. But they're, back when I started with the elites, they were 10 tournaments, big entry fees. Um, it was tough.
The only saving grace you had, gas wasn't $4 a gallon.
That's true.
That's the only saving grace you had.
That's right.
Um, the one thing that sticks out to me with your buzz bait, I don't have one in front of me,
Okay.
is the way it's designed with the angles of the wire.
Yeah, I got one right here.
Okay,
Um, and
that little bend there,
that
that's what I'm
little
talking
that's the oxbow bend. And what it does is it puts the head a little deeper in the water, so there's a little more drag on it. Okay. And the blade comes closer to the head, which makes it compact.
about.
And with the head in the water a little bit, and you get that little bit of drag, it stays on top of the water easier. So you can reel it in pretty slow.
Okay.
And then this bend right here in the front,
Yes,
okay, most buzz baits come in their 90 degrees.
correct.
Well, a 90-degree bend catches every bit of grass that's in front of it, no matter what. With the bend, it our bait will deflect off the grass, so it doesn't get as tangled up in the grass as other buzz baits do.
Okay,
And
that
the
makes
baby
complete.
buzz bait, I actually designed the baby buzz bait back when I had Cavatron, and I forget what year it was, but let me think. It was the year before I went pro, so it was like 95. Larry Lazoan won a back then they were top 100s on the Potomac River with my baby buzzbait, and that's what gave it its first kickoff with the baby Cavatron.
Okay,
Was that bait? It was designed to come through the grass, and it did. It comes through hydrilla like you wouldn't believe. I mean, and it was pulling them fish out of that hydrilla.
I'm just getting excited thinking about it because I know I've caught a lot of fish up here on that
Yeah,
on the old original
the
Cavatron.
old yeah. Yeah, and it's still going. I mean, I sold the company to Bobby Uhrig at Megastrike, and he's still selling them just like they were years ago. Um, so it's still out there.
Yep. Yeah. Uh, I think the one I have a couple holes in it
Yeah, we
in the blade.
originally started it with 4 holes in the blades,
Yep.
and it it helps slow the bait down. Is what I really thought was happening. But as
Hmm.
we continued testing, we found out that we really didn't have to have all the holes in it. Um, what really makes the difference in the speed of the bait and the way the bait gurgles is we cup each blade we cup both wings on each
Right.
blade. And that cup is what allows it to spin faster in the water, meaning you can retrieve it slower. And it's all with the cupping of the blade. And we did the cupping back when I originally designed Cavatron too. And that's but after more and more testing, we realized that was what was really making that bait what it was.
Right. Okay. Because I remember it was different or
Yeah,
unique, however you want to say it, because of the holes
Yeah.
And I at the time I'm like, oh, that's going to give off a different vibration and sound
Right.
than just like a regular spinnerbait
Oh
or
yeah. No,
buzzbait. I mean, I'm
it,
sorry about that.
it helped. I'm not saying that that they were unnecessary. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
They gave it a unique gurgle and a unique sound in the water. There's no doubt about that.
right.
So I mean, they were there for a purpose, and they enhanced the cupping of the blades and everything to make it really the bait that it was.
Okay. Um, from when you started tournament fishing to what you seen going on now, what do you see as the major difference?
Well, right now, I mean, it's definitely the electronics and
Yeah.
forward scan and bottom scan and side scan. Um, they they've got a lot
Yeah,
of scanning going on.
yeah. I started chuckling when I was gonna ask had that question because I mean we've talked about that prior to going
Yeah,
live, and that's the, I mean, technology is technology. You know, it's here. It's not going away.
that's right.
Um, whether you are like it or not, um, you got two choices: get with it or don't.
That's right.
That's on you. But
No, and that's what technology does. I mean, it's always progressing, and
yes,
as a top competitor, you have no choice but to become fluent with the newest technology.
yes, yes. Um, I mean, back when you started, there were what 19-foot boats with 150s fishing,
18,
fishing 18. Yep.
18 footers with 150s on.
And now they've gotten a foot longer, 2 foot longer, and
Yeah.
100 plus more.
That's right.
Yeah,
When I retired, we were running 21-foot boats with deuce 250s on them,
yeah,
and that was a huge change to the industry when they went from the 18s. You know, club tournaments, federation tournaments, all them kind of tournaments, you had to go by bass rules, so
yes,
you couldn't fish them with a bigger boat and bigger motor.
right,
You know, you had to have that 18-foot with the 150 on it. And well, you could have had a 19 because I had a 19 and a half Gambler that I had, but it had to have the 150 on it. The boat was rated for a 225, but you couldn't do it in competition.
right. Just change the cowling. They won't know.
They won't know. Yeah, you go blowing by them 20-mile-an-hour
Yeah.
faster.
Um, what lure or technique um, that you had back then do you see as not being used that much now that you feel it should be?
Well, one of them is the Jersey rig, of course. I mean, that's the one I won Table Rock with. And after I won Table Rock, um, you know, he had his chance to make it with it, but he wasn't able to, and that bait's kind of disappeared.
Yes.
I'm thankful I got about 400 of them still, um, but that bait was crucial for me, and I used to fish, believe it or not, I used to fish a quarter-ounce ball head jig with a trick worm on it. And that was my go-to bait for the first 5 or 6 years of my pro tours. Um, you could throw it anywhere, you could do what you wanted with it, and the fish liked it.
Right. Yeah, that was the issue that I had is the fish liked it and I didn't. So so
We
needless
all
to
go
say, I
through
didn't.
that.
Yeah, I and I was one of these guys that if my boater's doing one thing, I'm doing something different until he
Right.
starts proving to me. And sometimes, up here, it only takes 10 minutes to get 20 pounds anymore.
That's right. It's a whole different world out there now.
Yes, it is. Because, I mean, back I'll say back in the day, back in the
Yeah,
late 90s, early 2000s, you didn't target smallmouth very much, even on the St. Lawrence,
that's right.
because they would burn you. You know,
Yeah,
you
you
might
could.
catch 15 pounds today, but you're not getting 2 pounds tomorrow because they're gone.
That's right. They were very unreliable. Um, where now they're now with the forward scan and everything, they I mean they can
Well,
follow
let's
them around. They,
yeah,
you know, we
and
couldn't do that very well before.
no, even though that lake is clear, that body of water for the most part is clear.
Yeah.
You you can't chase fish down that good.
No, no. And I mean, all the times that I fished up there, I targeted largemouth
Yeah.
every single tournament. Um, they were more consistent.
Yes.
You know, you could pattern them out pretty good up there.
Is there anything that I mean, I shouldn't say anything you know now, but something that you know now that you wish you'd have realized back when you were on the tour?
Yeah, I wish I'd have started pitching a jig in shallow water from the beginning. Um, when I realized how to do that, and I started doing that, even up north on them crystal clear lakes, you can catch fish out of a foot and a half of water with a jig. And when I started doing that, I started a lot more top 10 finishes.
Yeah, you're right. I remember my first year in the bass club that I belonged to. Uh, one of the guys says, "Do you throw a jig?" I'm like, "No." He goes, "I don't have to
Mhm.
worry about you then. I don't have to worry
Yep.
about you." So yes, I learned how to throw a jig right after that.
Yeah. My mentor, Art Singer, I don't know if you remember him or not, but he was a
I don't.
Northeast king. I mean, he was on top all the time. And he's the one who taught me how to do that and to do it shallow. And he said, when you're ready and you start doing that on a regular basis, you're going to be surprised. And I was. And I was.
It's amazing how and they can come quick too.
Yeah.
You know, you can get you know just pick them off like you're picking grapes off of the vine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know,
And I'm a sight fisherman. I love shallow water fishing. I can't tell you how many bass I put in the live well that made it to weigh in that I seen and chased them down and caught them. Um, you know, it's a neat deal. I love it.
it is, and you can do it when it's 100 degrees out,
That's right.
um, especially up here. You know, people
That's
think
right.
it's too
Yeah.
hot. And the fish are gonna all. I think people get this preconceived notion that all fish do everything the same.
Yeah, and they don't. They don't.
No,
I wish
fish
they
spawn
did.
different. Yeah, fish spawn different times a year. You know,
Yeah,
they don't all just okay. It's 20 degrees out. Let's go deeper. Let's go shallow or whatever.
right.
But
And I opt for shallow water first. And I was telling you before we went on online that I fished the last 2 days.
yeah,
And I was fishing down here in Florida, down by Lake Placid area, which is, kind of southern Florida. And the water temperature is 86 degrees, and I was catching them in less than 2 feet of water. I mean, people think when the water temperature gets that hot, they all go deep. I'm not going to say a lot of them don't,
right.
because a lot of fish do go deeper. But there's always fish shallow. That's the way I look at it all the time.
Yeah, and one of the things like I tell people is to fish their strength.
Yes.
Especially in a tournament. I'm not going to go out because I don't throw a shaky head. Okay.
Hmm.
I'm not going to go out in a tournament and throw a shaky head all day.
That's right.
I'm going to throw a jig, a drop shot, or something I'm familiar with. So
Exactly.
if you're going to go out, if you're putting your livelihood on it, why wouldn't you throw something that you're comfortable with?
That's it. I mean, I've had a couple good finishes with deep diving crankbaits in my career, but that's it. A couple. Because I don't like to do it. Okay.
I'm with you.
Yeah. You give me a jig and you give me a shaky head that I can throw up shallow or up under docks, and I'm a happy man.
You were good until you said shaky head, but I guess to each
Yeah.
his own. But no, what's one of the most memorable moments you've had? It could be fun fishing, it could be a tournament in your career.
Oh, wow. Um, well, I mean, there's no doubt I'd have to say making my first classic
Okay.
was, I mean, it was just, I was flabbergasted. I mean, it was just amazing. From getting there a couple days before the practice, all the boats lined up in a fenced in area. Everybody's fishing out of the same boat. It was just an amazing experience. Um, I didn't do very well in it, but I made it there, and that was a big deal back then and still today.
Yeah.
Making the classic is a big deal.
Not everybody gets to do it.
No, no.
I mean,
And I feel very blessed. I made it 3 times to the classic, and I fished 2 FLW championships. So, I feel very blessed to have been able to qualify for the big show.
yes. Yeah, I mean, I appreciated the couple times that we've had a chance to talk prior to this, because you were always one of the stand-up guys who, um, if you caught him on a blue fleck worm, you would tell him, "I caught it on a blue fleck worm."
You're right. Yeah.
You know, um, back back in those days, a lot of people weren't honest. You know,
No, I mean, a lot of people felt that, if I got a certain color they're eating, that's all they're going to eat, and I'm not going to tell nobody.
right?
Um, but I always was the type of person that wanted to grow the sport, which meant being honest to everybody about what you're doing and how you're catching them, so that
Yes,
they get a little incentive, like to get out there and do it.
yeah, and that has always stuck with me. How you handled yourself on and off the water. I
No, thank
greatly
you.
appreciate it. You know, there are so many anglers out there now that cameras
Oh
are
yeah,
on. You
yeah,
can't see what I'm
yeah.
throwing.
Or
Look,
they
if it's a
hide them in
spot,
their
and
rod locker and they don't take their
yeah,
rods out till they get there.
yeah, and have them all put away when they come back. Look, you got
That's
five
right.
pounds today. I'm not going to try to sneak anything. I'm not going to steal anything from you.
That's right.
You're 30 pounds out of first. I'm not going to steal anything. Okay, you can leave everything right on top of me. But
Oh,
uh, we did talk earlier and about life after this a little bit, after the tour and stuff like that. Um, what do you feel you missed the most about being on tour? Was it the travel, the
outside,
tournaments, the camaraderie?
yeah, outside of the competition itself was the camaraderie.
Yeah,
Um, it was like a second family. We'd travel from tournament to tournament to tournament, and there are a bunch of us, and that's what we did. And you got to know each other's families. Um, there was always you never had to eat dinner by yourself.
right.
Um, and if you broke down or you had something happen, there were anglers there ready to give you whatever they had that they could help you with. not just the pit crews.
Right. Did they have the pit crews when you were first up in the
Oh yeah,
elites or
yeah,
the 100s? Okay,
yeah, yeah,
I
and
wasn't sure
thank
if they were.
goodness for those. I mean, I can't tell you how many lower units I've lost. And
Not in New York.
no, not in New York. I think
Uh,
I I lost one lower unit here in Florida, and it was from hitting a big alligator. I was full tilt running down Toho, and I hit this big alligator, and the lower unit just snapped right off. My boat at like 65 miles an hour did about 4 donuts when that lower unit came off, and then my partner, my amateur that was practicing with me, he got banged up a little bit. I had some bruised ribs and stuff, but nothing broken. But the anglers that were out there stopped fishing and ran right over to us. They didn't think we would be still in the boat.
yeah,
That's how bad it was. But they came running right over. And I mean, that's family.
yes. I hear that a lot because we do a lot with the women anglers as well,
Okay.
and that's one of the things that they say as well, that each angler will help each angler out if they need it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I know that doesn't always happen on the Elite Series, you know, but
Though it did. It used to.
it used to, yes.
Um, I know I was fortunate enough to have Foxwoods Resort Casino as my primary sponsor. So I carried extra stuff. I carried an extra lower unit in the trailer. I carried 2 extra trolling motors. I carried stuff because you can't always get it replaced in the pit crew that day.
Right.
They may not have a lower unit and they may have to wait a day for it to come in. So I found out real quick that I'm gonna carry this extra stuff, and I've loaned out to anglers 5 trolling motors in my career, and loaned the pit crew 3 lower units in my career,
Now, when you
because they
say
ran.
you loaned them, was did was that after you tore it off, or was this a new lower unit?
Well, no, they were brand new.
Yeah, yeah.
That I carried, and it, especially I forget what lake up north we were on, but boy, they were going through lower units like crazy.
My
And
guess would
and
be Oneida.
I was sponsored by Mercury, and so I had an extra lower unit with me in case I broke mine off, and they didn't have one. They could just put mine on. But there were so many people breaking lower units, and I kind of knew the water, so I wasn't worried. And the pit crew, Joe Smith, he came over, and he said, "Lee, do you still have that extra lower unit?" I says, "Yeah." He says, "Can I borrow it for this guy?" And I said, "Sure." And the next day, the new one came in, and he gave me the new one
Yeah,
to put back in my trailer. And that's what we used to do. We used to do that. And I'm not saying they don't do it today. I'm not out there anymore
right.
to be close enough to see how everybody is. I can only go by what happened when I was fishing.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and you know, you were fishing in the glory days. I would call them the glory days. Um, Before the show, you and I were talking how the money in the payouts shrunk and the entry fees tripled.
Oh God,
You
they
know?
went horrendous when the elites first started.
Yeah,
Um, and but I mean, it was tough. I was blessed. I had a lot of good sponsors, and so I was able to afford to do it and fish the FLW at the same time.
yeah.
So, there was about 8 of us that were in a position to be able to fish both tours, the elites and the FLW.
Okay. Well, you should have brought, instead of a couple carry lower units, you probably should have put a couple slot machines in that back of that.
That's right.
You'd probably had your entry fees paid for in a weekend.
I was just going to say, I'd have probably made a profit then.
But no.
Uh,
But you were one of the original guys. I think you were one of the original guys to really hit the non-endemic sponsors hard.
yeah, I was. And my first non-industry sponsor was Black Velvet Canadian Whiskey. And they were with me 2 years before I went pro with Foxwoods. Um, and they helped me. I started running tournaments for them. We had contests at the sport shows, pitching and casting contests, and you know them companies had the money,
Right.
and if you could show them in black and white how many impressions they get from doing a show or traveling down the highway or running a tournament, and you show them numbers, and they were willing to put up money for different things. Like our
Sure.
casting contest, we gave $1,000 away to the winner at every show, and that was all from Black Velvet.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. It just amazes me how you had the foresight to look outside the industry.
I from the beginning of my career, as a club fisherman, I was always looking for something to make me stand out, something that would make sponsors, when I'm ready for them, actually look at me,
Right.
and that's been my makeup. I mean, I've been on the forefront of so many things in my career. Um, I'm surprised myself, that that I was able to do all those things that we did.
Yeah.
But I knew right away, though. I mean, even back then, the industry was tapped. You got back then. We had two motor companies. That was it. Okay, and how many anglers can two motor companies sponsor? And that's it. You know, there's no more money. And that's what got me looking at ways I could get some other non-industry people involved. And what I found out was, when you got them involved and you showed them the numbers and you gave them the numbers, they had no problem spending money to, like, I started the Foxwoods Bass Challenge Tour, and ran that for Foxwoods for 4 or 5 years. And those kind of companies are willing to really back that kind of stuff, because it gives them so much publicity and so much stuff outside of just being a tournament winner or a tournament fisherman.
Right. We have a comment here from Greg Bogan, a friend of the show. He says, today's elites compared to way back then is ridiculous. I know I'm not gonna answer that because I've never been the elite, and he follows it up with saying it's hard to get sponsors today, especially ones that will dedicate themselves to you.
Yeah. I could comment on that, saying that it's not different now than it was back then. Because again, like I just said, you only got so much pie, and now you've got a tremendous amount of anglers trying to become professional.
Yep. I think Lee's having internet issues or something going on here because he froze. So yeah, I'll try to get into Lee's mind a little bit. The money's there. It's just there's so many more people wanting to get to it. It's so much easier for somebody to pick up the phone and contact somebody. And yeah, Greg, I mean, you're right. You have to look outside the box. Let's face it, Strike King's not going to give you or me $10,000 to try to promote them when they can do it with, give 10 people $1,000. Their odds are that they're going to be able to reach more than what you got. We'll give Lee a couple more minutes to try to pop back on here, and but no, Lee is definitely one of the men that I looked up with and looked up to growing up. I shouldn't say growing up because we're roughly the same age. When I was into my fishing, when I thought I wanted to be an elite angler, he was one of the guys that I looked up to. He did it right. He didn't lie to you about what he was using, and that is one of the things that I commend him for. And Greg said he had Chevy, Wolf Brothers as sponsors. Yeah, I mean, go to the local dealerships. You're probably not going to get Chevy themselves to throw you out a truck, but local dealership might give you a little bit here and there. But so, all right. Well, I see Lee's having some difficulty still, and yeah. So what we'll do is we'll he may come back. He may try to pop back in or not. We'll see, and I'll just take it from here for a little bit. But no, if you have any, here we go. He's trying to pop back in here. We'll wait for his everything to straighten up for him. But no, Greg, thanks for commenting on that about sponsors. It's I don't, and I kind of agree with Lee that the sponsors still there. You just have to show more now that you can create a better, more money for them, a better return on their investment. And yes, dang internet, just like everything else, GPS, forward-facing sonar, it's great when it's working. When it's not working, not great. So, all right, see if I can bring him. Yeah, he's having issues with the internet. So what I'll do is, if you guys have any other questions, let me know. I'll try to get in touch with Lee afterwards. If you guys are looking for the buzz baits he was talking about, and let me look it up here. Type in the right name, John. You can go to his website, LeeBaileyJr.com. That'll take you over to the bait, the baby buzz bait that he's designed now. I've not used the baby buzz bait. However, if it's anything like the original, it's definitely worth its weight in gold. But yeah, if you go to his personal page, LeeBaileyJr.com, you can see a lot of the articles he's written about fishing, some of the pictures, and a bunch of other things. And so yeah, Lee said he's having difficulty with the Florida storm. So all right, we'll just end it right here. Greg, hey, we appreciate you. We appreciate everybody who is stuck with us. Not just for this show, but all the other shows that we've had and done. Rob has been on almost every one of them. He's missed only a couple. I've missed a lot more than a couple, but we do enjoy doing this for you guys. I don't know if it's just for you, but I think we're a little selfish because we enjoy it as well. So everybody take care. I'm not exactly sure who we have lined up for next week, but we have 3 or 4 shows for next week. I can't remember. So everybody take care, be safe. If you're out this weekend, make sure you're always wearing your life vest, especially if you're running. I know it's hot out, but it doesn't take much to throw you into the water or keep you down. So, all right. So, well, yeah, Lee's still having difficulty. So everybody take care. Have a great day. Bless you all. Appreciate you all. And be safe.